Hi everybody, it is Andy from Snow Camps Europe here with Paul from the ski instructor. I always want to say association.
Who do you work for, Andy?
Ski Instructor Academy Capron.
He's remembered us at last.
Another podcast.
Where did your wage packet come from?
I think it's because we talk about the associations so much that I keep thinking that SIA is an association.
That's how strong we are.
Exactly. So. And yeah, well, if it wasn't for us, the association wouldn't be as busy, would it?
Cool.
So yeah, we're back, another podcast, and we are talking about the summer, because obviously it's coming to the end of the ski season, albeit when this comes out, probably the ski season has ended. Although I think this year in Capron, the lifts are staying open until the middle of July. But as we've said on many a podcast before, once we've got into the middle end of May, it's not really worth going up there. And we for sure don't go up there. And we're going to have a little chat about what we do in the summer and what other people might want to do in the summer to prepare for next winter.
It's a good way to look at it. One thing, it's interesting because people often ask my routine when they're asking for whether it be mobilization and how I warm up, how I prepare for a ski day, or how I prepare for my day. So a good example today is I get out of bed, I do what anybody else does, wash, shave, brush their teeth. I then drink about 400 to 500 milliliters of water straight away. I then switch on the coffee machine, which starts to heat up. When that's going on, I do some mobilization. When that's finished, I then have a coffee. And then with a coffee, now it's warmer, and because of the way the terrace sits there, I sit outside and I take in the vitamin D, even read a book for about 20 minutes. And then this morning, I went for a little warm-up bike ride, like 50 minutes up one of the mountains, and came back down. And for me, that sets me up. Why am I doing that? Because I'm setting myself up for a good night's sleep. So the minute I'm getting out of bed, I'm thinking, how can I make my sleep better the next night? Because as we've mentioned before, sleep is the most important thing. And if you are missing out on that, there's something wrong with your health somewhere that you need to look at. You need, where possible, you should be getting 8.5 hours sleep a night. Okay, you might get up, like you do because you're a bit older for a pee in the middle of the night, but you fall back asleep again. And I always know when I've had a bad night's sleep, I really feel like jet lagged or like you've had a heavy drink the night before, and it really affects me the next day. So I do everything at the start of the day to prepare for that night's sleep. Now, equally, when a ski season finishes, I think a lot of people fall into depression as well, like, oh, the ski season's over. But you maybe want to be thinking that November, December, January, I don't know when people start skiing, but we out here in October, it's not that far away. And like anybody who will tell you from the fitness industry, a lot of people who, for example, can be very committed to their training, go on holiday, and then come back off holiday, and they make the fatal mistake of not going straight back into training. And it takes them then months to get back into training. Yeah. You've got to have a discipline. It's not a motivation. People say, how are you so motivated often to train every day? And I'll go, it's not motivation. It's a discipline. And if you want to ski better next year, and especially as, I am in my 50s and people are going to be in their 60s and 70s, you're fighting a natural slowdown as well. So it's even more important that you're doing something from the minute the season finishes to start thinking about how can I make it easier and more comfortable when I hit those slopes again.
Yeah. I think that going back to the person who's just come back off holiday and then hasn't gone to the gym straight away, I think that how I see that is when I am going to the gym, that becomes part of my daily routine. And at that time of the day, I go to the gym. But then if I was to go on holiday, I've not stuck to my routine on holiday. So I've got to get back into that routine. And it might not be for a week or two that I get back into that routine. So I think that's why that happens with a lot of people. But
but I find as well, if people put it off a week or two, they're then more likely to put it off a month or two or three. Yeah. It's literally one of those things where you've got to come back and go, right, tomorrow I have put it in my diary. I've got my training kit out. Pardon me, I'm going out on that bike ride, I'm going to the gym, whatever it might be.
And to be honest, it's exactly what I've done the last 2 days, because I have been off since Friday, and I said to myself, weather's nice, go out on the bike on Saturday. Didn't go on the bike on Saturday. And last night I said to myself, right, tomorrow I had to clean an apartment, and then I was, right, then you can go out on your bike. And then I actually thought about riding my bike here.
Yeah.
And then I've still not been out on my bike.
Yeah.
But what I do, though, is once I do go out on my bike,
it's in.
Then I'm there. I will then go out and I'll go out and I'll go out.
There's got to be a starting point, yeah. And that's like the other day there when I was, it's obviously, it was the first day of summer, wasn't it? I know this podcast probably is coming out a lot later than that, but it was the first day of summer. And the day before, I did all 4 bikes. I went downstairs and I started to do the race bikes, and then I did the mountain bikes. I got everything prepared. I tested them out, made sure they were all right. Because one of the hardest things is you sort of switch everything around in October, don't you? You start getting all the winter stuff out. Yeah. You put all the summer stuff to one side, and then it happens again in March. You've got to go, right, hang on, I now need to put all my cross-country skiing away, my ski touring, my skis away. I'm now grabbing out all this biking kit instead, or whatever it is you're going to do, and then just prepping the bike up, because the bike's obviously just covered in dust. You've let all the tires down. It needs a good greasing and oiling and everything like that. It's a bit of a task, isn't it, to get the bike out the first time? You're talking a couple of hours. So if I do that, and I did that the night before, I thought, right, I'm now going to get all my kit out on the floor. So when I get out of bed, I'm looking at the kit on the floor going, oh, God, I've got to put that kit on, you know. And actually, when I went out, though, you know what it's like. You're out in the mountains, you're out in the fresh air, and you just go, I'm so happy that I actually disciplined. And that's the word, not motivated. But I had the discipline to do that. And that brings us on to the discipline of preparing for a ski season. And you know what I'm like, because I harp on about it, and I blame most people's bad technique, most people's failures on the fact that they're not fit. They're not strong enough, agile enough to actually do the sport of skiing at the level that they want to do it at. Don't get me wrong. If you accept that you're not the best skier, and you're happy plodding around, then there's no harm in that. But if you want to ski at the level and you're concentrating on, I don't know, these carved devices and looking at tutorials and all this sort of stuff, this tells me that you probably passionately want to be better. Yeah. Well, I'm afraid if you want to be better, it's probably nothing to do with your skiing. And we'll come on to this in a future podcast when I talk about the basics of skiing again. But basically, if you can just get more agile, quicker, understand your body, you understand flexion and extension in your joints, you are going to be 10 million times better than watching hours and hours of video tutorials like mine. They aren't going to help you. What is going to help you is start strengthening yourself now. That's not my belly. That's just a drill.
Was it a drill? Was it? Yeah, it's basically taking action, isn't it? Taking action. But so, what are you this summer? What will you be doing?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky, obviously, because I'll get in at least 6 weeks skiing in South America, for example. So I will ski. So I don't have that loss of muscle memory, if you like some people do have between season and season. But in the gap, I have to travel a lot, and I've learned, you know, whereas I think when you're fixed in a location, you have your, let's say, a gym membership, and you go 3 times a week to the gym, then you go biking twice a week, then you go for a run once a week, or whatever it might be, or hike, then you have a routine. Whereas for me, it's different because I'm in Greenland, for example, or I'm in Iceland, or I'm traveling Spain or somewhere, then I have to adapt. And what I usually do is I look at prioritizing, again, mobilization. The most important thing as you get older is to be aware of how much you're sitting, how much you are not active, because just being active makes a difference. Moving around makes a difference. And then having a structured mobilization plan, whether you use an app is fine. There's loads of good apps nowadays that will help you address stability and mobilization. And I think you should invest in one of them if you don't understand it yourself. Definitely do that. The second thing I'll do is I'll be aware that in summer, I do tend to start to favour a lot of aerobic style sports, such as biking and stuff like that, which has a very negative impact on skiing in a way, because you're now changing from anaerobic to aerobic, a different pathway, and that pathway change means that you are probably encouraging further slowing down, i.e. using more of the slow twitch rather than the fast twitch type 2B. And that way you have to therefore make sure, if you're going to do a lot of running, biking, that type of thing, you include strength training. And most importantly, not just bilateral strength training, but unilateral strength training that encourages balancing all the planes and strengthen all the planes of motion, because skiing has a huge degree of rotational force on it. You need to be addressing that as well. Be aware that it's great to do squats, and you know why there's videos out there telling you do your squats by me all the time. But remember, they're two-footed. Skiing is generally unilateral. You're going from outside ski to outside ski. So learning to manipulate your training program to in some way, fashion and work it around skiing is really important, that you don't waste your time. And the great thing with strength training is if you just throw in the compound lifts once a week, and you do squats, deadlift, military press, bench press once a week, and then add in an auxiliary training session in weights where you do this unilateral stuff, wood choppers or whatever you want to do, lunges, etc. That's enough. It just has to be 35, 40 minutes each session. And then you can go out and do your bike ride, the things that you enjoy in summer. But my side of preparation is I'm lucky I have that discipline from 8 years old, and it's never left. Some people will find it difficult. Incorporating structured programming that's in your diary that you have fixed is hard, because I know people have a life. They've got families, they've got kids, they've got a job, but you need time for yourself, and you have to put that to one side. And people who say they don't have time, I don't have much sympathy for them, because actually they do when they start looking at how long they sat on the toilet on Instagram, or how long they sit in front of an Netflix program or whatever it might be. You just need to put the time aside. I'm sorry, you don't get the dividends unless you put in the hard work. And if you want to ski better next season, I am telling you, switch off the videos about skiing and just switch on to looking after yourself. That would be my top tip.
Yeah, I suppose if you're watching an hour of someone talking about short turns, that hour could have been in the gym or on the bike or going for a brisk walk or walking up a hill or...
Yeah. Try and watch that video and take your phone with you, what I mean, if you're going for a walk or something like that. But don't think, and then this is why we did that podcast about people looking for the next thing, and I'll come on to it, because I don't want to, blow out this podcast, and I want to talk about going back to ski basics again. But I think you're better off formulating a plan. And if you have to, and you really get a really good coach and say, look, my aim's to make really good short turns, really good long turns, and hopefully that coach is a skier as well, and he can relate to the fact that there's a dynamics there, there's agility there, there's flexion there. And I'm going to come on to this in future podcasts when I talk about these things. But if you can develop a program then that helps you to be ready for next season, okay? As I've said many times before, I consider myself a really fit guy, but as soon as I start biking again, for example, like I biked these last 2 mornings, the first thing you notice, of course, is your backside sore. So you think, Jesus Christ, sitting in that saddle again. But yeah, I'm doing something different, but I could do it. I could get straight up the top of that mountain and relatively fast to my top time. I'm not that far behind even at the start of the season. But of course, it's new again. It's still got a new pattern. And skiing's like that as well. No matter how much you might prepare for it at home, it's still going to have a feel of, difference, because it's a moving platform. It's, you have to be ready for that. We've talked about starting the ski season before, how we start a ski season. But yeah, spend time constructively, not looking at tutorials that I might put out on ski technique, because now's the time to strengthen yourself. Get ready.
What I find is when I start, and as I said, I was Saturday go on the bike, Sunday go on the bike. I've not been on the bike. So let's say Monday I'm going to go on the bike. I always think when I get on the bike, or when I used to go for a run, the first run of the summer or the first bike ride, I always think, God, this is going to be really hard. Yeah. And then you get 10, 15 minutes into it and you're like, this isn't hard.
And do you know why?
Why did I think it was going to be, and it's...
Well, interestingly, it's not the first. It's usually the 4th or 5th. That's hard.
Yeah.
And it's quite common, this, because it's the same if you take somebody into the gym for the first time in their life, and, I don't know, you do deadlift and squats or something stupid, or lunges if you really want to be evil to them. If you don't like somebody as a personal trainer, what you do is you do lunges with them, because then they can't, move their backside for the next couple of days. But obviously, they're coming from a point of no pain, pretty relaxed and stuff, and doing something new. So therefore, the body hasn't got any DOMs. It hasn't got any like pain or anything. Of course, going into the next session, they're probably going to go, "Oh Jesus, I can yeah, they're going to be stiff." Yeah. And of course, that is important as well. Whenever you do decide, and people always look at it and go, "Well, I'm in my 50s now or 60s. I don't really want to be going to a gym. I've never done it my whole life and whatever." Well, it's never too late to go to the gym. And one of the biggest proven things that's not out there is how important strength training is for older people. It is the most important thing that's going to slow down your aging process. So even if you haven't been in the gym for 50, 60 years, there's nothing stopping you starting now. And you'll be surprised as long as you get a good, a good coach, because what you don't want to do is take somebody in the gym at 60 and break them.
Yeah, or do it yourself and do it wrong.
Yeah, or do it yourself. Yeah, exactly. You do need good positioning. As I've said many times before, when you've got a doctor who tells you not to squat or a doctor who tells you not to deadlift because your back's sore, find yourself a new doctor, because he's got no idea. How do I sit on a toilet if I can't squat? How do I pick something up off the floor if I can't deadlift? You need to understand that if there's an issue with your back or something with your hip, then you need to find out the source of that and work that out. It's not stop doing things to make it better. That is this case with my knee. It's a great example where the cartilage is gone, the meniscus is torn, and it's bone on bone. Being told by your doctor who looked after you, Topai, do not bend ever again past 120 degrees. It's a red flag to me, because the only thing that happened when I took his advice for about 3 months, actually, I took his advice. And I went, no, I will follow you, because he said, you'll never follow my advice. I went, no, I'll try. Is I actually went back over. 1,000,000%. I promise you, I went back over. And I would have had to have that knee replaced sooner. And as a result, I didn't then follow his advice. I went back to what I know, and I know myself. He doesn't know what I feel. So then I started to stretch again. I started to mobilize again. I started getting to deep end range positions again. I worked out with testing what the issue was, what could help above and below the knee to make me have more flexion. And now the knee still hasn't been replaced. I'm still going strong. So, and I hope, touch wood, that's the case for the next few years. I hope I haven't damaged that. But you know yourself, you know your pain level. And if you and I'll come on to this in future podcasts when I talk about pelvis and hips and things. But at the minute, the more agile you can get yourself, the more you can get into end range positions, the more you can develop stability and strength. I guarantee you that will be a better investment in time than watching videos of skiers. That's my opinion. Yeah. What are you going to do, Andy? Are you going to get on that bike or what?
I'm going to get on the bike, yeah. I do need to go back to the gym, and the main reason I've not been at the gym was the gym was closed for so long. And then I went back pre-season, and then obviously we've been flat out busy, and I will say the dreaded line, I haven't had time, but I have had time, I just haven't gone.
But then again, you are skiing.
Yeah.
So it's different. I mean, you're not doing nothing.
And to be fair, I've said this a couple of times in the last week, is this winter has been a lot more demanding with the skiing, because we have had the courses running the whole winter. And as the winter's gone on, the guys on the courses have become better. So we've been skiing a lot more higher level for many more days than normally, because in a normal winter season, we'll do the courses at the beginning, then we'll go on to tourist lessons, and then we'll maybe have another little course in January, and then back to tourist lessons for the rest of the winter. Where this winter, it's been constantly ski teacher training from start to finish, and I have felt it. And we talk about being season tired, and I think I've been season tired for about 3 months.
Which is always the case, especially when we start in October, and you get, when people say they're season tired in January and they're working in a normal ski resort, you look and go, well, you just started in December.
Yeah, and you're going to finish in about 8 weeks.
Yes, whereas we start early October, and obviously it finishes into April normally, into May even.
Yeah, we're looking at least 6 months, six to 7 months, depending on what we do.
But yeah, just being on skis helps.
Yeah. So I have been skiing, of course. I haven't been to the gym. I've not done any
and you
other
walk
stuff.
Dog, really.
I walk the dog twice, yeah. So I do about...
So you probably do 6 Ks walking the dog, do you think?
I'll have to measure it. I don't know how far it is, but I normally do about 45 minutes in the morning and an hour to an hour and a half in the afternoon.
In that case, you're probably doing about 8 or 9k. If that was me, that'd be 20k.
And I walk quite fast. I don't.
Right.
Kind of.
So you're probably putting on,
Yeah.
Because somebody said to me once was, you know, they trained a little bit, maybe it's 3 times a week, so they were doing all right. And they said, how can I get rid of this? And they were like a bit of fat on their belly and stuff like that. And I'd said to them, just go for a walk in the morning. Get up every morning and do disciplined 30 minutes, 3Ks, come back. And you'd be surprised what effect that has on you if you do that for just 3 weeks.
Well, we mentioned this on the podcast 2 weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, when we were talking about people having unrealistic goals, and we just mentioned dieting as people looking for fads.
Yeah.
And we said then it's if you change what you're doing by doing that 30-minute walk and also have one less piece of bread, you are instantly gonna start to see results.
Yeah, you will see
because you're moving more and you're eating slightly less. And I think where people make the mistakes is they think, right, I've got to go for a walk, and I've got to go to the gym, and I've got to ride my bike, and I've got to reduce my food by half, which you haven't. You've only got to reduce your food by maybe 10% and increase your movement by 10, 15%, and hey presto.
Of course, it's like the New Year's Eve thing, isn't it? I'm going to quit smoking tomorrow and go to the gym. And it's like, don't do everything at once unless you're that person who can. But as Andy says, I think you've got to take it in proportion, haven't you? And think about measuring what you're going to do. A good example is the fact that I fast, so I only eat in that 7-hour window every day, and people very rarely get past the 2 weeks trying this. They'll I'm going to try that. I've heard of this. I've whatever. And 2 weeks into it, they'll go, I just cannot do that. And a lot of it, in fairness, is their lifestyle. When I go to Greenland, for example, I won't fast because I'm in an environment where I'll not be able to fast. Might be even dangerous for me to fast.
Right.
But here, when I'm at home for this 6-month period, I will try and fast 95% of the time. And for me, from an alert level, it's changed my whole, especially because I do like sweet things. So I'm not great with my diet all the time.
He likes a bit of cake.
I like a bit of cake, yeah. And as a result, though, I don't have those ups and downs and lows, and the blood sugar's not flying all over the place. But again, it's a discipline. It's not easy. It's a discipline, but the benefits are very good. So they outweigh the discomfort sometimes.
My thing in the summer is I track my calories, so I'll put everything into an app.
Oh, right.
So I know how much I'm eating.
And people have asked me to do that for years, and I've always resisted it. And don't get me wrong, if I was an Olympic athlete, I would track my calories, but I'm not. The only thing I would suggest to everybody about tracking calories is this: do not take your calories in liquids, and you're fine.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
because that's where people slip up.
Yeah. And I think you get away with it because you are so much more active, and therefore, and you probably eat a similar kind of pattern because you do your fasting. And if you go out for dinner and therefore you do go over, let's say, your daily intake,
then the next Domino's pizza.
Yeah, the next day it's gone because you are so active. But I track it because I always put weight on through the winter and I lose it through the summer. Mm. And I lose it partly because I'm more active. I do more activity in the summer outside of going to work, and because I look at my calories. And I'm not dropping them massively from the winter. I'm just tracking them and making sure I don't go over, because I know I'm doing more activity. And if I keep them at a certain level, then I know I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to get to where I want to be at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And like the COVID, when we went into lockdown 2 years ago and I was on the bike every day, I actually increased the number I was eating. Yeah. And I was still losing weight because I was on the bike every day. Yeah. And I was like, right.
But that's when the carbohydrates become important.
Yeah. But I normally do 1,500 and
calories in a day,
Yeah. When I'm tracking them. And then I went up to about 17, which meant I could have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But unlike you, I don't really have a sweet tooth. So I don't miss cake and chocolate and things like that. If it's there...
Yeah, but you have a liquid tooth.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And this is the biggest thing. It's like, it's the liquid calories that really hurt people without them realizing, whether it be just soft drinks to obviously alcohol,
But again, when I'm tracking my calories, obviously, if I was to have 2 beers, I've lost 600 calories of food. You know what I mean? So I don't tend to drink as much when I'm tracking my calories
because you're observing it. Yeah. And that was the thing that shocked me. I remember going back to England 10 years ago or whatever, and I was there, and I was in shock that Starbucks or wherever it was, or Costa, had put the calories on the cakes like next to it. Yeah. And it was like depression for me. I looked and went, what, that millionaire shortbreads, like 500 calories. It was like, give us 2. Right, 3 hours in the gym today.
I think I'm right in saying this. Someone told me this the other week, is depending on the number of people you employ, whether you have to have the calorie count on the menu now. So if you're a single bistro with 5 staff, you might not have to have that on your menu. But if you are Starbucks or McDonald's, TGI Fridays, you now have to legally have the calories on there. Which, you look at some stuff and you go, really?
That's my day's calories gone. Yeah.
Well, I love a curry, and I used to, when I lived in Reading, I was out every Friday. I would go for a curry.
But then it's all the add-ons to the curry.
Well, yeah, there's your naan bread, there's your rice, there's your pickles, there's your what they call the crispy things, poppadoms, and obviously the liquid that gets consumed with the curry. But you go out for a curry, you can be doing like 3.5 days 4,000. Just 2 to 3 days calories in one meal.
And to be fair, again, Andy's counting his calories, which is very good. And I do advise people to do that who are athletes.
That's me, I'm an athlete.
That's why. but yes, I mean, at the same time, I think people want to live their life. They don't want to be, strapped down. But it's a discipline of, like, for example, the curry. You can enjoy the curry. But I think what the hardest thing is to leave a quarter of it, isn't it? Like, you're going to scrape that plate.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we go to Iceland, we love to have the Domino's pizza because we don't get decent pizzas around here anywhere, and a Domino's is like a treat for us, and we'll have a Domino's pizza, and you always get a large one, and I'll get a medium. You go, why you get a medium? I go, well, because if I get a large, I'll eat a large.
Eat all of it,
and if I get a medium, I'll still even leave a piece of it. And by the time we come back, though, he's about 4 kilos overweight again, and I haven't actually changed just with that little slice of pizza.
Yeah. It's a funny thing because there are dieting concepts that say just leave a quarter of your food on the plate. Right. So, well, that's wasteful. Just make a quarter less. But then that would require you to measure it out, etc., etc. But what was I going to say? Food on plate. Yeah, that's my problem. I will eat everything off the plate. Yeah. So I had half a roast chicken in the Alpine Centre on Thursday, and I actually said to the guy, because he piles on the chips, and I said to him, please don't give me so many chips. And he gave me half of the portion of chips.
Which is still a massive portion.
Yeah, and I still ate it all, and I stripped the chicken to the bone. But if he'd given me the big portion of chips, I would have eaten them and sat there going, you don't really want to eat these, but I'm not going to leave them on the plate. Stop,
And I think that's the hard thing to stop. It's also after you eat something, like, for example, I have to close with something sweet. And sometimes if I'm distracted with work, I've noticed I can avoid that. So instead of having that, like my breakfast, I'll have it today. I had it early at 12 o'clock, but maybe yesterday it was 1 o'clock. And instead of having my avocado, eggs and whatever, and then finishing it and having something sweet like a bar of chocolate or something like that. If I can just avoid it for 5 minutes, that bar of chocolate, I'll then not bother to think the moment's gone. Yeah. It's like trying to distract yourself for a little bit. Some people say brush your teeth, or they come out with all these weird things, drink a coffee or whatever. But then I do like to eat what I want to eat, and I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, you want to live a long, healthy life as much as you can, but you also want to live a happy life. And I still couldn't get to the point of being a complete, don't touch anything with sugar in it at all. I still like that. I still like even to have a beer once every 3 months. Or a glass of wine. But we've waffled on about this one, Andy, but basically for summer, it's a good topic. But for summer, Andy does funny enough, most of our training staff's the other way around, by the way. They lose weight in the winter because they're shivering, it's cold, for one. They're skiing a lot at very high end, especially if we're doing like mogul camps or Landis 2 level, like level 3 levels skiing. And because, yes, some of them do go to the gym as well. Yeah. And that's the thing. Now, when I was teaching, I didn't realize how much I was doing because I was skiing at that level, and then I would go to the gym at 5 o'clock at night and do another hour and a half, and often a HIIT training session. And that would be every day.
Yeah.
No wonder I burnt my knees out. I mean, it's just so obvious, you know. But there's always something. A lot of people that write on here, Andy, I can see them making comments about their body and different things like that. There's always something you can do. So, like you've identified in the case of your leg, like biking's quite low impact.
Yeah.
It works quite well for your knee.
Yeah.
And I found that this morning when I was biking, like I had no stress with the knee, even though I was going up at 300 watts, steepish. I was pushing hard on the knee. I didn't feel anything on the knee because it's a different type of impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I basically that doctor you mentioned earlier, he said to me, for you to regain the muscle and that knee to feel good again, get a road bike and ride it. And he literally said ride every day.
He does, you know. He's right. That's why
he does. Does he's a road bike?
Well, he sits also on a turbo trainer 30 minutes a day. That's
right,
why.
okay.
This is a surgeon guy.
Yeah, but the first summer I went out and I used to do maybe 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But again, the next summer being the COVID summer, so 2020, I was doing 2 hour, 3 hour, 3.5 hour rides, and I got the muscle back. And the problem was I wasn't regaining the muscle in the gym because I couldn't put the muscle under enough strain to get it to fatigue to stimulate growth. And by riding the bike for a good distance, and I didn't have to go hard, I just had to be consistent, the muscle came back, and that has probably given me a couple more years on this knee.
Yeah, and you could then move that to obviously climbing would be the next stage, because doing some short climbs instead of doing the 3 hour distance, but instead going an hour and doing, you know, a couple of 100-meter sprints or something on the bike uphill would help. The other thing that helps, and I don't want to kick this podcast any longer because it's past 32 minutes, but is I'll talk about BFR training, blood flow restriction. For people who have knee problems and issues with joints and stuff that don't want atrophy to be a problem and create hypertrophy through that. But I think we can pick this up in part 2 at some other point, but we don't want to go on too long because most of you probably switched off.
Eat less, move more, get ready for the season.
And stop drinking your calories.